Hello and welcome to Native Yoga Center. My name is Todd McLaughlin, and today I want to point out tips and tricks on how to practice a pose called Urdhva Mukha Paschimottanasana or upward facing Western tense stretch pose. So are you new to yoga, or are you a beginner to yoga, or perhaps you're new to the Ashtanga yoga practice? Or maybe you've been at Ashtanga for a really long time and you're having trouble with this pose. I want to try to break down a couple of tips and ideas about ways that you can develop in this asana. All right, so let me at least cover my bases on the level of what the pose looks like. Urdhva Mukha Paschimottanasana. Urdhva means up, Mukha means face or facing, and Paschima means west, which references the back side of the body, and Uttana means intense. So it can be translated as West intense facing pose, or West Urdhva Mukha, upward facing West intense pose. And so what we do is we grab the heels and we work on holding the outside edges of the heels, balance on the hips, extend the knees, keep legs and elbows, or knees and elbows, straight. And then once you're able to get straight legs, continue to hold legs straight and fold and bring your head toward the legs, or gaze up, look toward the feet, and bring your chin toward your shins and look upward at the feet. So this is a difficult pose. I mean, without a doubt, it lands in the primary series, but in case you haven't already learned, primary is actually quite an advanced series of poses. So really the main idea in the beginning is to be able to work the hamstring stretch. So a good way to prepare for the upward facing Western tense stretch pose is to be able to reach and grab a hold of the heels in forward fold and learn to practice the pose while sitting on the ground. Now the big difference, excuse me, excuse me, the big difference between the previous pose that we do which is called Ubaya Padangusthasana. Ubaya Padangusthasana is the both big toe pose. Notice that if I'm holding my toes, I have to fold this far to be able to grab toes. To be able to grab my heels, I now need to fold this much further to be able to make that grip. So even though that doesn't look very different in relation, it is quite a bit different. It does require a lot more range of motion at the movement of the pelvis, so the hips tipping forward. And so the main idea really in the beginning is to get to the point where you feel fairly comfortable holding your heels in a forward bend. So for those of you that are holding the shins, one way to modify the pose is to just grab behind the knees and just to practice balancing and see if you can balance holding onto the legs and extend the legs out in front of you. If that is really challenging, another thing you can do is sit on a blanket or a prop, so that by making or creating a little cushion under the hips, this creates a divot for the bones in the pelvis to be able to rest into. So this is a good way to start to learn how to balance, is put a blanket under and to start working on. One way to do is just to come into this position. Now, I realize that even this can be quite challenging to be able to get your chest to touch against your legs. So one way to kind of learn this posture is to fold your feet close to your hips, to wrap your arms around your legs. And here is a movement called spinal extension. So when we're rounded forward, if we have to round our back to wrap our arms around, that's flexion. And if we hold on in this position and start to extend or straighten the back, this is one of the key ingredients of the Urdhva Mukha Paschimottanasana, the upward facing West intense stretch pose. So this is a great way to prepare. Another element, you could make that even a little softer, holding the knees, and just practice your ability to extend your spine and your ability to flex the spine. This is very similar, if not reminiscent, of cow and cat. Cow pose is where we inhale and lift the chin. Cat pose is where we exhale and round the spine. So learning this articulation with the hips and legs, the ability to do this is part of the key, because watch what happens. Now I'm on the floor. I'm going to go to the point where I'm going to now, the grip is to grab the outside edge of the heel. And because when you hold your heel bone, if you pull your heel bone towards you, it puts your foot into what's called plantar flexion. So the calf muscle shortens when we pull the heel toward and the foot points. So one of the ingredients or key ingredients of this posture is plantar flexion. And the grip holding the heels facilitates that. And if I were to try to grab out a little further on the edges of the feet, that actually makes it deeper. So this can work to our advantage to be able to catch down low on the heels. The calcaneus is your heel bone. And that action of pulling on the heels makes your feet point. So it's really tough to grab the heels from the inside edge. One of the biggest challenges we see when people are attempting to at least grab a hold of the feet and start to learn the balance technique. In this posture, it is really helpful if you can wrap around the outside edge and grab your feet down low. So one, upward facing Western 10 stretch pose 101 position would be to just hold here, to pull the heels in close to the body and to balance on your hips. The real challenging part is getting right over this little hump right here. So when you're here, your knees are in close to the body, and to be able to have your arms come above your knees like this right about here requires a fair amount of hamstring flexibility. And notice that my back isn't really moving all that much. The movement is coming predominantly from the extension of the knees, which is really this opening or flexibility in your hamstring muscles. So that's why I think it's really important just to not try to jump ahead and learn the balancing pose until you've maintained or reached a reasonable level of proficiency in the forward bending posture. And so all the poses preceding this in the primary series of Ashtanga helps to make this a little bit easier. Now, I do want to point out that the transition to come into this pose is quite difficult. Let me demonstrate what it can look like or could look like. We jump through, we lie down onto our back, and we're going to take both legs up above your head. And then when you raise your legs above your head, you balance on a plow, and you take one arm and the other arm, and you grab a hold of your heels. One way that you can make the transition a little easier is if you take your hands to the pinky toe edge of the feet. So that way, when we roll up, we'll create a little dorsiflex. Oh, didn't make it. Let me try again. Come up. Didn't make it. Let me try again. A little more momentum. I made it. Okay, now I'm going to move my hands down the feet and grab a hold of the heels. And now that I've set myself in the grip on the heels, I'm going to bend my elbows and bring head toward the legs. Now, usually here what happens is the knees start to bend. We start to bend the elbows and the knees bend. We start to bend the elbows and the knees bend. What we try to do is keep the legs straight, not bending the knees. Lift the chest, pull the stomach in really firm, and then just isolate the movement to the head coming in. Notice that for the head to come in, it's a combination of legs lifting, head comes in. To stay on that balance point, the legs are going to be moving towards you at equal speed that the body's going to be moving toward the legs. So to keep your balance, think of the 2 points are going to meet somewhere in the middle, and you can't just bring your head to your legs or you'll fall forward, and you can't just bring your legs to your head this way or you'll fall backward. So the transition, in my opinion, if you want to learn the straight leg roll up, definitely start mastering the straight leg roll up on the previous pose, which is the Ubhaya Padangusthasana, the both big toe pose. And then eventually we can learn the roll up, where we grab a hold of the outside edge of the feet and roll. Okay, not today. Roll up, bend your knees. So notice how when I bent my knees, that made the momentum so much easier. The key, right? When you want to come up, you bend your knees, you use the momentum of the roll, then you set your balance, and then you set your legs to straighten. And here's where we can start to fold the body closer to the legs. So the roll-up technique in this one is quite challenging. Don't be afraid to modify and to learn. A couple more tips and things you can do for the rolling up process. You just grab behind your legs and you round your back and you work on this ability to roll up. So if you can round your back like a rocking chair bottom and rock back and forth, this is the key for being able to roll up into the pose and hitting the brakes. If you do have a tailbone injury, you can utilize a blanket to help soften the intensity of the balance point here. The one question I often get is, can I take a strap and hold my feet and work on, holding the pose like this? There's a lot of different theories about this, like should you or shouldn't you? Realistically, the hamstrings, I think it's important to try to learn to open the hamstrings while in a seated position, to not really add that whole balance component holding the strap until we have this. However, if you try it and it works well for you, use it for a couple practice sessions. Use the strap or the prop a couple practice sessions, and then start to remove the strap out of the equation. If you utilize a prop, use it for a little while, then pull it out, see if you made any improvement. Ideally, the use of it will help you to improve. If it's not, it might be holding you back. So this way we want to just try a couple different things to keep challenging us so that progress can be made. Now remember, the most important thing is to have fun. I know life isn't always fun, but if we can make our yoga practice a little lighter where we're not so intense about it, and we just like relax and enjoy the moment, this is a critical part. Now, the breathing coordination, let me point that out as well. What we do try to do is inhale and roll up, and then we're going to exhale and bend our elbows and fold in. And when we finish the pose, we inhale and straighten the arms, and exhale and release and come down. So the entry from the downward dog is to inhale, step or jump through, take your legs straight, exhale, lie down. Inhale, grab the feet, exhale, and inhale, roll up. Hold your heels, straighten the legs, exhale, fold, hold for 5 breaths. After holding for 5, inhale, breathe, straight arms, and exhale, cross your legs, lean forward, lift up, and jump. So the vinyasa or the breath movement coordination has that very specific, when you release, there is an inhale, straight arms first. All right, well, what challenges do you have with the pose? I'd love to know. You can always ask during these live presentations and or leave your comments where I will respond to you. Remember, you can reach out to me if you have a specific question and or a topic that you would like for me to address during these Grow Your Yoga tutorials. Send them to me at info@nativeyogacenter.com. If you visit my website, nativeyogacenter.com, you'll find a really easy way to contact and let me know what questions you have. Thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful rest of your day and happy yoga practice. Namaste.